So right now we've got the foam outside. It's being spray painted and drying right now, and I've gone ahead and started to get my brooches wired up. And you can see here I've got a couple of them started, and I had a set of 19. And unfortunately, one of them doesn't have a good back on it. So I'm down, or I had 20, so I'm down to 19, and I'll zoom in on this so you can kind of see. We talked about it in another video about what kind of pins you want for your bouquet, but see how this pin here, it doesn't have anything for wire to easily be secured through because it's pretty much solid in the back. I can't really use this. I could maybe glue it if I really liked it, but I will see if it gets to it. Anyways, what I have been doing is wrapping, and this part, I mean, really this whole process, don't do your nails when you're working on it. It doesn't matter. So I've got my Brooch Bouquet. These are essentially going to be the flowers. Okay, these are going to be the flowers that create the bouquet. So I started working on them. I'm just going to lay them out here. And now this one has there's two of these in this kit that I got. I didn't really get a kit, that's not the best word. I bought it in bulk, let me put it that way, an assortment. And I think I covered these on one of the Sparkly Saturdays I did not too long ago. If you want to get more details about where I found it, just go check out the video. But these two are the same pins, and it is okay to use the same pin twice. It's especially good for filler if you have some pretty neutral ones, but these are pretty enough. So we use two of these, and I'll show you how I created this. These are the same pin, and here's what we're going to essentially be doing to all of the pins that you find. Now this same method would apply for if you used rings, like I used a couple of rings that I found and some necklaces. You could, whatever you want. This is generally how I've been applying it. So like I said earlier, I've got some 22 gauge wire. It's floral wire, so it's pretty handy. You probably could get a thinner gauge wire if you wanted to, but this stuff is super sturdy. And because the pins that I'm using are a silver, I'm using the silver. If you were using gold pins or others, you should, match it up so it blends in. So I've got a pretty long piece of wire. It pretty much goes from the tip of my fingers to pretty much my armpit. And what I'm doing is I'm folding it in half. Now you don't all of them have to, let me see how. They don't all have to be this long, but at least one per brooch should be fairly long, because this is what's also, it's securing it, but it's also creating the handle. So you want to keep it long, and I'd rather tell you to do it long and you could cut it down than to do it too short, because you don't really want a short handle. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for the holes in the brooch, and not like holes as in it's broken, but it is holes as in there's, in the design work of it. And you'd be surprised how many are there once you start looking. So I'm going to get one end of this folded over wire in two separate holes, but close to each other. And what's going to happen is the silver is going to blend in. Okay? So, you can kind of see here, it's in two of the different holes. Okay, so we're going to pull it through, and I'm going to put one on this side, and later on I'll put one on a further side. So now this next part, there's no like rhyme, well, I mean there is some rhyme or reason to it, but you don't have to do it the same every time. It doesn't have to be perfect every time. So pretty much what you're going to do is get some flat tip pliers, and maybe a couple inches down, hold on to it, and start twisting the wire. Okay, now I'm using it with the brooch as kind of the base of what I'm spinning, because that's just what works best for me. And once it's got a pretty decent amount on it, I'm going to scoot my pliers up a little bit. I'm going to go in here a little bit closer and keep spinning so it gets tighter, because the tighter it is here, the more secure it'll be. Okay, so it's pretty tight here, and yeah, it moves a little bit, but that's okay. So now I'm going to just keep on loosely spinning the brooch and the wire so they're twisted further down, but don't worry about it being perfect. It's obviously gonna be pretty loose because just the nature of how long this is and everything like that, but don't worry about it too much. I promise it will be okay. And then as you get closer to the end, it's gonna be really loose, but again, I promise it will be okay. As long as your two at the tip are pretty close together, you'll be fine. Okay, so that's side one. Now with side two, I'm going to use a little bit of a shorter piece because I don't need it to be as long. I'm going to also fold it in half. Oops. And because this one's on this side here, I'm going to put this one over here. And I do try to hide the wire underneath as much as possible, but sometimes it's easier than others to say that. So here, you could hardly even see it. Let me zoom in. But if it's straight up, you can barely see it. It's only off to the side you see it. So keep that in mind. Oh yeah, don't mind my broken nail. Oh, it hurts. Okay, so I'm gonna do this up close for you, or as close up as I can. Okay, so we're just gonna start twisting. Be careful when you're doing this because you don't want to have this accidentally hit you in the eye, which I've had a few close calls from. Let me zoom out a little bit. Oops, sorry. Okay. Okay. So we got the up close part. We're gonna go a little bit closer and get nice and tight in here, because we don't want this to shift around. Then we're gonna go a little bit further out. And we're going to go down here towards the end. Okay, so now you should have something like this. And yes, I realize they're disproportionate, and that's okay. So here's what I believe makes this method superior than others. Is what you're looking at right now is two pieces of metal, essentially metal wire. And we're going to combine these together like you do for the other portions on a smaller scale. So what I'm saying is I'm going to take my pliers, and I just did one quick twist here just to get it started so I have something to grip onto. And now I'm going to twist the two half pieces together and combine them. Okay? So this is essentially what's creating the sturdiness behind your bouquet. And this is why it doesn't move. Like mine jingles because there's moving pieces and there's dangling rhinestones, but those suckers aren't going anywhere. Okay, that's very secure. And this is also why this part here doesn't need to be wired as tightly together, because when you get to this part here, it's going to take care of all of that for you. So you're just going to slowly work your way down and just keep twisting and twisting. And I do it in little increments at a time. And this doesn't even have to be perfect either. Like obviously some parts are a little bit more wound than others, but as long as it's mostly there, it's not going anywhere. And as you're doing this, you'll notice more of a, I don't know, a less, like I can shake it like this and it's hardly, like it's moving, but it's not like as flimsy as it would be with just one set of wires or something. So I'm just gonna keep doing this all the way down. And because this is by itself, it doesn't really need more wiring or twisting, but I like to do it a little bit anyways. Okay, so now we've got this and all the other ones. And what's kind of fun with this part of the process is as you're doing it, you can kind of hold them together in your hand like you would like if you just picked wildflowers, and kind of see like, oh, well, these kind of look nice together, these don't, you know, like you could kind of play with it and get a general sense of it. Now, for this particular one, you'll notice that I only did one wire on, and there's a few reasons for that. One, this is actually plastic, the other ones are metal, and it's very flimsy, so I was afraid to do anything too tight on here. But two, you need some that are going to bend outwards like this, on this angle a little bit, because you're going to want them in the front. So that won't make sense too much right now, but I promise later on it will. So not everything has to be this secure. And because this one is so light, I'm not worried about it going anywhere. So unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how much free time you have to do this for every single brooch. And that takes a while. So I recommend putting on some of your favorite shows, or if you're like chain watching or binge watching a show, put it on, and just once you do this a couple of times, the muscle memory will be there and you'll feel pretty confident with what you're doing, and you'll be doing it without thinking about it. And just put on a show or a movie or something and work on it, because this does take a while, but it's not undoable. It just takes a while. So now for this one, because let's say for example this one has such a open portion to it, in the sense that it's not as, let's say like this one here, the holes are so much closer together, the wire will blend into it, whereas this one's open. It's not going to be as easy to hide the wire, okay? But that's okay, because honestly, when it's all on there on your final bouquet, nobody was going to notice it. Okay, so again, we've got two portions, sliding the wire through. Okay, so it's going to create a loop at the top. We're going to pull it through. We're going to take our wire hanger or wire clippers, wire needle, whatever, pliers, whatever they're called. We're going to start twisting. We're going to do it about 1 inch or 2 out initially, just to get it going. It's going to get pretty secure. Then we're going to move it in a little bit. We're going to get tighter. And don't worry about this being perfect, because I promise once if you're doing two-sided, it's going to be plenty secure. It really is, I promise. This is, from what I can tell, the best method to do it. Not that there's anything wrong with the other ways, it's just this is, like, I know that my bouquet that I have right now, I could reuse again and again at anniversaries or wherever else I may need it, or lend it to somebody, or, you know, something like that, because it is so sturdy that it's gonna hold up. I'm more worried about the rhinestones, honestly, because I tossed it around pretty hard. But it's holding up just fine. So, okay, this is pretty loose, but it's okay. And I'll finish this one up. So this is a shorter one, so I'm gonna make sure I get a longer piece of wire, and it does help to pre-cut wire. And I'll put it on the other side here. We'll do something like this. Like this. Okay. We're gonna pinch them together, hold them down with the pliers. Start the process all over again. Now this will vary depending on what type of brooches. I mean, I say brooches, you could get necklaces, you could get rings, you could get random tidbits. Like, I think I remember telling you guys, I ordered this front piece of my bouquet on eBay, and I just put in, like, I think I just put in rhinestone, and I still don't know what it is, because it's got holes on all of the sides to hang things from, but I'm still not clear. I don't think it was a necklace. I'm not even sure. But just look for cool pieces of jewelry or anything really that you could get a wire into or through for when you're creating your collection. Now, like I said in my other video, there's no one place to get all of your supplies from, unfortunately. I suppose you could use some of the kits, but I don't see too many kits out like this. Maybe I'll put some together. If you want me to put together a kit of everything I think you need, I'd be happy to do that for you. It's going to take a long time to gather your supplies is what I'm getting at. Okay, so now that I've got my two sides twisted, I'm going to start getting this here. Okay, so it's nice and tight. And keep on going. Okay, more twisting, more twisting. And like I said earlier, don't do your nails when you start taking on this project, or when you're, like, if you know you're going to work on it for an afternoon. Don't do your nails before, do your nails afterwards, because they will get demolished in this. There's no good way to go about it, unfortunately. That's just the nature of the project, but that's okay. It's worth it. Okay. So making sure my two ends here are pretty close. Alright, so now I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, if I was doing this like I did my bouquet, this would be such a small portion of it, because I layered mine. Like, so see how there's like one down here, and then there's another one, but this one's on top, and then this one's layering this one. That's why my bouquet looks so intense, because this is only 7 right here. This is 7 in this small little cluster here. So it looks beautiful because it's layered on layered and layered on, but I realize that's not something for everybody. So when I assemble this bouquet, I'm gonna space them out a little bit so you could see them. So it's kind of highlighting them a little more on the brooch side than as like a wow. Not, what's the best way to say that? I'm gonna be spacing them out a little bit more, so the focus is more on the brooches and the color, and it's not too much, if that makes sense. Okay, so for now, I'm gonna keep on wrapping up my brooches as best I can, and then I will be getting with you guys soon and showing you the assembly process, okay?